Standards transform my life in every little way. Let me name a few areas of my life and how standards completely transformed it. Let's take fatherhood for an example. How I parent, how I raise my 3 kids. The standards is quite literally what I raise my children to. I set the standards and I hold those standards and then raise my 3 kids to those standards so that they can live those standards as well. Something as simple as setting the table to the standard, eating to the standard of our dinners, the standard of chores in the house, the standard of their homework, the standard of how they speak to one another, the standard of their behavior in the home and outside the home, the standard that they hold for themselves each and every day. Without those standards, I experienced a lot of repeating myself, trying to carry the weight all by myself, wondering why they weren't able to live up to the expectations that I set in the house, only to realize that the standards that I was living by weren't clearly communicated to my children. And after clearly communicating those standards and leading by example, those standards became the baseline. They were no longer the bar that my children were trying to live up to, but they had actually become the baseline that they now live. The standards also transformed my marriage. How we speak to each other has transformed our standard for communication, our standard for intimacy, connection, our standard for how we resolve conflict, our standard for spending time with each other each day. Standards transform my marriage. Without standards, there was a lot of disrespect. There was a lot of friction. There was a lot of arguing. And standards made everything more streamlined, harmonious, and brought my wife and I together closer than we've ever been. Now living more harmoniously. Standards completely changed my creation, what I'm building, what I'm sharing with the world. The lack of standards resulted in feeling like I was carrying way too much weight, that I wanted to transform people's lives, but I was also feeling like I was carrying too much weight on my shoulder, literally picking them up and walking their path for them. But then when I set the standards, clearly communicated it, and held my community to the standards, all of a sudden I felt the relief that I was no longer doing the work for them. I was no longer dragging people along the path, but instead had the standard that then they either met or didn't meet. And those who met the standard transformed their lives. Those who met the standard walked their own path, did the work, and can speak about standards the same way I speak of it, how it transformed their daily life. So standards affected not only my leadership in business with my community, but also my creation process. As I created each day, I ensured that there was a standard that was met. And this prevented me from just putting something out there that was partial, something that didn't have all of me in it. But the standard is that when I create wholeheartedly. I put all of it, all of me into the creation so that it's authentic and it reflects who and what I truly am. So the standard of my creation transformed what I create today. The standard completely changed my daily living. It's those standards that we have to hold ourselves to, that we have to become the standard, embody the standard, because the standards are always tested, especially when no one's looking. That you can't just simply live by a certain standard one day and not the other, or around these people and a different standard around some other people, but really embodying the standard daily, so much that you become that standard. And when you become the standard, you notice how it's not only transformed your life, but it starts transforming others, because others see the standard. They start seeing their own potential reflected back to them, what's possible. Because the truth is, you only experience the life that you live up to the standards that you live by. And that being said, if you want to experience something different than what you're currently experiencing, if you want to live differently, you have to raise your standards. If you're ready to transform your life, join me in truth. Let's walk this path together.